Manishtana. How different this Pesach is from all other Pesachs in recent memory. Pesach marks just about 1 month since we made the difficult decision to close the doors of our shul shortly after Purim. 1 month. It feels like ages ago. That was at a time when we were still trying to process what was going on. Now we seem to have come to grips with the new normal. But there's nothing normal about it. Gloves, masks, washing hands, quarantines, and those are just minor inconveniences compared to hospitals, breathing tubes, and ventilators. Pesach this year comes at a time that's very difficult. We're living through trying times. But for encouragement, inspiration, and hope, look no further. Hakol Seder. Not just is everything okay, but all the inspiration is in the Seder. Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. 3 words. 3 words that we're told that Rabbi Gamliel used to say. He would say, Kosher lo amar shlosha dvarim elu b'Pesach. Anyone who doesn't say these 3 words at the Seder, lo yatzah yedei chovato, has not fulfilled his obligation. Ve'elu hein, Pesach, Matzah, and Maror, and these are them, Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. No matter what your Seder looks like this year, no matter how many people are or aren't with you, you should be sure to say this passage in the Haggadah. It's Rabbi Gamliel teaching us that these are the keys to Magid, these are the keys to the Pesach story. And each one has a powerful message to each of us, especially this year. Rabbi Gamliel goes on to explicate each of the words for us. He explains that Pesach, the Pesach offering, is so called because God, Pesach, God passed over our homes on God's way to smite the Egyptian firstborns. Life in one home, death in the other. The line between life and death can be so very narrow, and we feel that this year perhaps more than any other in recent memory. With all that's going on, with all of the challenges and the inconveniences, the scariness, if you are listening to this, then you are alive. Then God has chosen to bless you with life. God has decided that there's something that you have to contribute to this world that no one else can give. God believes that you matter. Pesach, God passed over. It might feel random, but it's not. It's not random. It may seem arbitrary, but Judaism teaches that there's nothing arbitrary about life. The Ibn Ezra, the great biblical commentary, cites 2 interpretations of the word Pesach. One comes from a root meaning pity or mercy, that God had mercy on us and gave us life. The other interpretation comes from a word meaning hopping or limping. In regards to this second interpretation, the Ibn Ezra quotes the pasuk from Sefer Melachim from the book of Kings. When Eliyahu Hanavi, yes, that same Eliyahu Hanavi who shows up at our Seder, told the people, Ad matay atem poschim al shnei seifim, how long will you keep hopping between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. And if Baal, follow him. If you want to become idolaters, then go. But pick, choose. And we're told the people answered not a word. Eliyahu was challenging the people to choose God. Perhaps Eliyahu shows up at our Seder toward the end to ask the very same question. Amatay atem poschim. Are you in or are you out? You can't keep hopping back and forth. There's a plan. You were put here for a reason. You've been given life. Are you in or are you out? This year, on Pesach, as we confront death in such a real way, may it inspire us to live more fully, more intentionally, more compassionately, and more kindly, more godly. That's Pesach. Matzah. Rabbi Gamliel goes on to tell us that the next concept we must speak about of the Seder is matzah. And he states that the reason is because our ancestors' dough was not yet able to rise before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself to them and redeemed them. So quickly did God redeem that there wasn't even enough time for the bread to rise. This concept is so important that it defines all of Pesach. No chametz, all the cleaning. Nothing that's given time to rise. Only matzah. But let me ask you a question. After being in Egypt for a couple hundred years, couldn't God have given us a few more hours? Or couldn't God have given us a heads-up departure time so that we could have had enough time to prepare for our dough to rise and we'd be eating challah for 8 days instead of matzah? Apparently not. Apparently, this concept of a rushed departure, of a hasty redemption, it was such an important concept that God recorded it for posterity. Every year we should remember that we rushed out. The matzah reminds us of our sage's statement, Yeshuat Hashem keheref ayin. God's redemption is quicker than the blink of an eye. One moment we're slaves, and the next moment we're free. God's capacity for redemption defies all logic. This is a concept that would get us through thousands of years in exile and persecution. Redemption can come at any moment. No matter how dark, no matter how difficult, no matter how lonely or how sad, no matter how narrow our straits are. Straits from the Hebrew word mitzarim, like Mitzrayim. God can take us out. God can widen the expanse. God can save in a moment, in the blink of an eye, before the dough can even finish rising. That's the lesson of matzah. And finally, Rabbi Gamliel teaches us that not must we only say Pesach, and not only must we say matzah, but we must also say maror. For the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors in Egypt. Now, I understand why we have to remember matzah, and I understand why we remember Pesach, but why do we need to remember that the Egyptians embittered our lives? And furthermore, isn't the order strange? Shouldn't we begin with maror, then go on to Pesach, and finally the matzah? After all, that's the order in which these things actually happened. First, the bitterness of the oppression, then Pesach, which they ate at night, and finally the matzah on our way out. It seems to me that the reason that we recall maror at all, and the reason that we mention it last, are one and the same. Often, it's only after the bitter experience is over, after we've moved forward, that we can look back with some distance and some perspective and understand some of the meaning that may have come from the bitterness. It's only after we mention the Pesach and the matzah that we can go back to the maror and recognize that there was a plan all along. It was through that bitter experience that the nation of Israel was born. Looking back, things may look a bit differently. And what about while the bitterness is going on? That's the message of dipping the maror into the charoset. Even in the midst of consuming the bitter, we try to make it as sweet as possible. Moments of sweetness within the bitterness are necessary. Moments of joy and fun and happiness are needed, especially now, and they must be enjoyed without guilt or reservation. Pesach, matzah, and maror. Life. God has granted us life. Life is meaningful and intentional. It's not random. Live fully. Redemption. It can happen in the blink of an eye. When all seems lost and impossible, God can redeem just like that. And context. With time, when we look back, the bitterness may begin to make a bit more sense. We may be able to come to grips with it. This Pesach, be sure to take Rabbi Gamliel's suggestion. Don't leave the Seder without remembering these 3 lessons. I pray that they help uplift your Seder, your Pesach, and your life. May this Pesach, even as it is a different one from other years, be one of reflection, inspiration, and redemption. Wishing everyone a very happy and kosher and a healthy Pesach. Chag Sameach.